The restaurant glowed under soft golden lights, white linen draped across every table. Crystal glasses sparkled like tiny stars. A gentle jazz melody floated in the air, elegant, effortless. Lisa Tran stood in the center of the room, wearing her Stanford MBA graduation gown. Her heart was pounding, but her smile was steady. Tonight was supposed to be the night when years of late nights studying, endless sacrifices, and countless tears would finally be worth it. She glanced at her parents across the room. Her chest swelled with hope. Tonight, she thought, they'll finally be proud of me. Laughter and clinking glasses surrounded her, but Lisa's world felt quiet, focused only on the moment her parents would look at her with pride. And yet what Lisa didn't know was that under these warm, glowing lights, her entire world was just minutes away from collapsing. Lisa, congratulations, Stanford MBA, that's incredible. You must be so proud. One after another, friends, professors, and colleagues surrounded Lisa. Smiles, compliments, applause. For everyone else in the room, this was Lisa Tran's night, but the camera slows and lingers on her parents. Their faces remain unreadable. No sparkle in their eyes, no warmth in their smiles. Just distant, cold detachment, as though they were watching someone else's celebration. Then Lisa's thesis advisor steps forward holding his glass high. Lisa, he says warmly, you're one of the most brilliant students I've ever taught. Sharp, relentless. You have what it takes to lead. Lisa's cheeks flush with pride. She glances at her parents, holding her breath, waiting for them to smile, to nod, to feel anything. Instead, her mother leans in, her voice soft, casual, almost dismissive. Yes, Lisa works hard, but Vanessa, she's the real pride of this family. Lisa freezes. The laughter around her blurs into silence. The music fades into a distant hum. Inside, it feels like someone has driven a blade straight through her chest. An invisible cut. A familiar pain. Because Lisa has heard this line her entire life. Lisa sat frozen, her smile fading, her fingers tightening around the stem of her glass. She swallowed hard, trying to breathe, trying to stay composed. One compliment after another echoed around her. Yet with every passing second, her parents' cold, detached faces carved deeper wounds. Finally, she couldn't hold it in anymore. The dam broke. Lisa rose from her seat, her chair scraping loudly against the polished floor. Every head turned. Her voice trembled at first, but it carried years of silent sacrifice. Do you want to know what I had to give up to stand here tonight wearing this gown? The room went quiet. Even the soft jazz in the background seemed to fade. I worked 2, sometimes 3 jobs while in college, just so I wouldn't be a burden to anyone. I sent money home month after month, paying for bills, debts, and even Vanessa's tuition so she could chase her dream of becoming a doctor. Lisa's voice cracked. Her eyes glistened, but she refused to let the tears fall. Every step of the way, I thought maybe this will be the moment you're proud of me. But tonight, even tonight, I'm still nothing more than a shadow. Her mother's lips pressed into a thin line. Her father leaned back, his face darkening with anger. And then he spat out the words that tore Lisa's entire world apart. We wish we had never given birth to such a disrespectful daughter. The words sliced through the air like glass shattering. The jazz stopped. Forks and knives clattered onto plates. A hush fell over the entire room. Lisa stood frozen, her breath shallow, her heartbeat pounding like war drums. Every gaze was on her, professors, colleagues, friends, all watching in stunned silence. She inhaled sharply, steadying herself. Tears brimmed in her eyes, but her voice came out steady, deliberate, unshakable. If that's what you want, then from this moment on, pretend I never existed. She set her glass down gently. The soft clink rang louder than any scream. Fade to black. Memories blur like old photographs, but some cut so deep they never fade. Lisa remembers growing up in a house where one name shined brighter than any other. Vanessa. Vanessa, the future doctor. Vanessa, the golden child. Vanessa, the pride of the Tran family. Every dinner, every family gathering, every whispered conversation with relatives, it was always about Vanessa. Lisa was there, but rarely seen. Lisa worked hard, harder than anyone knew. She stayed up late solving math problems, winning competitions, collecting certificates. One year, she even brought home a state-level academic award. She remembers clutching the certificate with trembling hands, waiting, hoping for her parents' proud smiles. But all she got was a cold shrug and 5 words that echoed in her heart. It's good, but Vanessa's better. And then came the birthdays. Lisa remembers one year vividly, the year she and Vanessa shared a party because they were born just days apart. A huge cake sat on the table, covered in bright red frosting. It read, "Happy birthday, Vanessa," her own name. Added later in tiny crooked letters in the corner, so faint some guests had to ask, "Oh, is it Lisa's birthday too?" Lisa forced a smile that night. She laughed when everyone laughed. She said it didn't bother her. But deep inside, a small part of her broke. That was the night Lisa realized in her own family she was just a shadow. They say words don't leave scars. They're wrong. In Lisa's home, comparison was the language of love. But for Lisa, every simple sentence was another invisible wound. When Vanessa brought home an A in biology, the Tran house came alive. Balloons, music, a family dinner, a proud father's toast, and a mother beaming with joy. "Vanessa, our little doctor, to be. You make us so proud." The whole family laughed. Relatives called to congratulate her. It was as if Vanessa had won the world. But when Lisa earned a full scholarship, one she fought for with sleepless nights and endless exams, her father barely looked up from his newspaper. "Good. Now focus on helping your sister. No hugs, no celebration, not even a smile." That's the thing about comparison to parents, it sounds harmless. But to a child, it cuts deeper than any blade. Every time Lisa's achievements were brushed aside, she learned to measure her worth against her sister's shadow. She learned that no matter how hard she tried, it would never be enough. And the cruelest part, Lisa believed them. Lisa grew up believing one thing: if she just tried harder, if she just gave more, then one day her parents would finally see her. Every time they praised Vanessa, Lisa whispered to herself, "I'll work harder. I'll prove my worth. One day they'll be proud." She took on more responsibilities than anyone her age should. Lisa studied relentlessly, always aiming for perfection. She picked up extra jobs, skipped outings with friends, and sent every spare dollar home, covering bills, tuition, emergencies. With every sacrifice, she thought she was building a bridge back to her parents' love. But the more she gave, the colder they became. When she called to share good news, they barely listened before steering the conversation back to Vanessa. When she brought home certificates, they tucked them into drawers forgotten within days. It was like screaming into an empty room. No echo, no warmth, no recognition. And yet Lisa kept going. Because children are wired to chase love even when that love hurts. What Lisa didn't realize was that every act of sacrifice, every silent compromise, wasn't bringing her closer to them. It was slowly erasing her. While most college students were finding themselves, Lisa Tran was losing pieces of herself. Her life became a delicate balancing act: classes during the day, shifts at the CAF until midnight, and late nights tutoring high school students in math just to scrape together enough cash. Sometimes she went straight from serving coffee at dawn to data entry in a cramped law office in the afternoon. Her fingers cramped, her eyes burned, but she never stopped. Every paycheck went straight home. Not a dollar spent on herself. Not a single indulgence, Vanessa's tuition, family debts, utility bills. Lisa carried them all silently, tirelessly. Her friends would invite her out: late-night pizza runs, movie nights, weekend trips. She always smiled and said the same thing: "I can't. I need to work." They thought she was disciplined. They never knew the truth that Lisa was keeping her family afloat while her own life drifted further away. And through it all, she believed a single fragile hope: if I keep doing this, one day, they'll finally see me. But with every sacrifice, the silence at home only grew louder. While others her age were living, Lisa Tran was surviving. She watched friends post photos of road trips, sunset beaches, late-night laughter under city lights. She saved every picture, every memory, but never allowed herself to join. Lisa turned down invitations to travel, to explore, to just be young. "I can't," she always said. "I need to work." Her days blurred into endless routines: classes, work, sleep, repeat. Nights were worse. Lisa hunched over a dimly lit desk, eating instant noodles from a styrofoam cup, while Vanessa lived like a princess. Vanessa didn't have to work a single shift. She didn't worry about bills or debts. Her days were filled with library cafes, brunch dates, and pictures of her smiling at charity events, praised as the perfect daughter. And Lisa, she carried Vanessa's dreams on her own back, sacrificing her own along the way. She dreamed once of seeing Paris, of hiking Mount Fuji, of falling in love without fear. But one by one, she buried those dreams under the weight of responsibility. Every time she chose duty over desire, she told herself it was worth it. This is what being the older sister means. One day they'll thank me. One day they'll finally see me. But deep down, a quiet voice whispered what Lisa refused to admit. Every sacrifice she made was bringing her closer to losing herself entirely. Have you ever loved so deeply that you forgot to love yourself? Lisa Tran had. For years, she poured everything she had into her family. Her time, her youth, her dreams. Every paycheck, every sleepless night, every silent sacrifice, all of it came from love. Not obligation, not guilt, just love. And yet, no matter how much she gave, it was never enough. Have you ever been there, standing in the shadows, watching someone else receive the love you've been begging for, while your own efforts go unseen, unnoticed, unspoken? Lisa thought that if she gave more, if she sacrificed harder, if she erased every piece of herself, her parents would finally say the words she'd been dying to hear: Lisa, we're proud of you. But those words never came. Not once. And that's when Lisa began to ask herself a question she had spent her whole life avoiding. How much of myself am I willing to lose just to be loved? The city lights blurred through Lisa Tran's tears as she drove back from the family party. Her hands clenched the steering wheel knuckles, pale heart pounding like a war drum. Her parents' words kept echoing in her head, each one sharper than the last, each one carving deeper into her chest. Vanessa is the pride of this family, not you. Those words, they weren't just spoken. They were branded into her. When she finally reached her apartment, Lisa didn't turn on the lights. She didn't take off her shoes. She just sat there on the cold wooden floor alone. The phone buzzed, once, twice, over and over. Mom, Dad, Vanessa. Lisa stared at the screen, and for the first time in her life, she pressed block one by one. No tears, no screams, just silence. That night, Lisa buried the little girl who spent 27 years begging for love. This wasn't rebellion. It wasn't anger. It was survival. For the first time ever, Lisa chose herself. Lisa Tran sat at her tiny kitchen table laptop, opened a cup of cold coffee untouched. Her hands didn't shake this time. No hesitation, no guilt. Click. Cancel tuition payment, Vanessa Tran. Click. Stop autopay parents' utility bills. Click. Remove family from monthly budget. One by one, Lisa erased her name from the chains that had held her down for decades. Her chest rose and fell, breath-steady, eyes dry. This wasn't revenge. It wasn't spite. It was freedom. I am no longer your safety net. I am no longer invisible. She whispered the words to herself, but they carried the weight of a lifetime. On her budgeting app, a single folder disappeared: family support. And just like that, Lisa rewrote the story of her life. For the first time ever, her paycheck was hers. Lisa Tran burned the bridges behind her, and there was no going back. She poured every ounce of herself into work. Days blurred into nights, coffee replaced sleep, and failure was not an option. Lisa at 2 a.m. in a dimly lit office, staring at glowing spreadsheets, eyelids heavy but unyielding. Lisa standing before a boardroom, laser pointer in hand, presenting strategies to executives twice her age. Lisa signing her first major contract, pen trembling slightly, yet her eyes steady, sharp, unafraid. Lisa leading a late-night video call, headphones on, while city lights flicker behind her. Each small victory became fuel. Each sleepless night was an investment. The quiet girl who once lived in everyone's shadow was now building an empire from scratch. And this time, she was doing it for herself. The call came late on a rainy Tuesday night. Lisa stared at the glowing screen, hesitated, then answered. On the other end, her father's voice was calm, almost casual. Vanessa's lost her job. Your mother and I were drowning in debt. We need you to help. After all, it's your duty as a daughter. No apology, no remorse. Not a single acknowledgement of the years she bled for them. Lisa's breath caught in her throat. Images flooded back nights she skipped meals so Vanessa could eat steak, birthdays spent working double shifts just to pay the bills they couldn't. Her voice trembled, but only for a second. So now I'm useful again. On the other end, silence. And then her mother spoke colder than rain. Family is family, Lisa. Stop acting like a stranger. For the first time in her life, Lisa realized their love had always been conditional. The room was silent. Only the ticking of the clock cut through the air, sharp and cold. Her parents stood there, their faces painted with desperate hope, as if Lisa's agreement could erase every wound, every betrayal. Lisa drew a slow, steady breath, her gaze like frozen steel. The night you told me I never existed, I stopped being your daughter. The words were soft, but each syllable slammed into the room like a hammer. Her mother's lips trembled. Lisa, no, don't say that I didn't mean it. I was just angry. Lisa gave a bitter, hollow laugh. Angry words are always the truest. That sentence carved itself into me like a scar I'll never heal. For years, I reminded myself I was nothing but a shadow in this family. Her father roared, his voice cracking between rage and helplessness. No matter what, we're still family. You can't abandon us now. Lisa took slow, deliberate steps toward the door. Her hand rested on the handle, unmoving. Then she turned back, her eyes burning with icy resolve. Family doesn't disown their children. From today on, don't call me your daughter. She twisted the handle. Click. The door slammed shut, echoing down the hallway like a gunshot, final irreversible. Behind it, muffled sobs, desperate calls, pleas of regret. But Lisa didn't turn back. Her eyes were dry. She had no tears left to give. Lisa sat alone in her new apartment, the soft golden light casting a quiet glow on her face. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, hesitating for a moment. The weight of years of pain, betrayal, and silence pressed down on her chest. But tonight felt different. Tonight wasn't about anger. It wasn't about revenge. It was about freedom. She opened LinkedIn, stared at the blinking cursor, and began to write. No fancy words, no accusations, no blame. Just the raw, unfiltered truth, a story of a daughter who gave everything for her family only to be told she never should have been born, and how she rebuilt her life from ashes. She ended her post with a single powerful line: stop seeking validation from people who never valued you in the first place. Within hours, the post exploded. Thousands of reactions, hundreds of thousands of shares. Comments flooded in from strangers across the world. People who had lived through the same heartbreak, the same rejection, the same invisible wounds. News outlets picked it up. Headlines screamed, "Lisa's story sparks a movement, a voice for the forgotten children." On Twitter, hashtags like #BeYourOwnWorth and #StandForYourself trended globally. Lisa became an unexpected symbol of resilience. Sitting by the window watching city lights blur into the night, Lisa scrolled through the endless messages of support. Her chest tightened, tears falling freely this time, but not from pain. For the first time in her life, she felt seen. The viral post didn't just spark conversations, it changed Lisa's life overnight. Emails flooded her inbox. At first, it was strangers thanking her for speaking up. Then came the job offers, invitations to podcasts, and requests for keynote speeches at leadership conferences. Within months, Lisa was standing on a brightly lit stage, thousands of faces staring up at her, cameras flashing. She spoke with a calm confidence she'd never known before about resilience, boundaries, and the power of walking away from toxic validation. Every word hit deep and every pause carried weight. Articles called her a rising voice for a lost generation. She landed partnerships with Fortune 500 companies. Young professionals looked up to her, tagging her as their role model and mentor. Meanwhile, miles away, the contrast couldn't have been starker. Vanessa, once the family's golden child, struggled to keep jobs after being laid off. The debts piled up. Their parents, who had once dismissed Lisa's worth, now faced overdue bills and foreclosure notices. The irony was brutal. The daughter they'd cast aside had risen higher than they'd ever imagined, while the family they'd favored crumbled into uncertainty. And Lisa, she didn't gloat. She didn't seek revenge. She simply kept building, climbing, thriving. Every headline, every award, every standing ovation only deepened the chasm between her and the family who told her she should never have existed. Lisa had finally stepped out of Vanessa's shadow, and for the first time, she was the sun. Lisa hosted a quiet dinner party in her new penthouse, the skyline glittering through the floor-to-ceiling windows. This time, the room was filled with people who saw her, who valued her, who loved her not for what she could give, but for who she was. There were no comparisons, no quiet jabs, no whispered judgments. Just laughter spilling into the night, the clinking of glasses, and the soft warmth of belonging. For the first time in her life, Lisa felt what family was supposed to feel like: safe, celebrated, and free. She had built her own circle, a place where her worth wasn't questioned, where her dreams weren't dismissed, and where she could finally breathe. This wasn't the family she was born into. This was the family she chose. Lisa raised her glass, her voice calm but steady. Family isn't defined by blood. She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. It's defined by the people who choose to stand beside you. The room fell silent for a heartbeat. Then soft smiles and nods filled the space. It wasn't bitterness that spoke through her, it was clarity. Years of hurt, sacrifice, and rejection had led her to this moment of quiet strength. For Lisa, this wasn't just a toast. It was a declaration, a reminder to everyone in the room and to herself that love is not an obligation and belonging isn't something you beg for. She had stopped chasing people who never saw her worth, and in doing so, she had found her real family. Lisa stood on the balcony of her penthouse, the city glowing beneath her like a constellation come to life. The soft hum of traffic mixed with the distant laughter of strangers, a reminder that life goes on no matter what we lose or who we leave behind. She leaned on the railing, a gentle smile curving on her lips, the kind born not of victory, but of peace. The weight of years, sacrifice, rejection, heartbreak had finally lifted. Sometimes she whispered almost to herself, "The sweetest revenge is living the life they once thought you'd never have." The camera lingers on her face, the city lights reflecting in her eyes. The music swells, soft piano chords blending with the steady pulse of a rising beat, symbolizing hope, freedom, and rebirth. Fade to black. Lisa's journey is a powerful reminder that your worth is never defined by anyone else's approval. She was dismissed, belittled, and even erased by the very people who were supposed to love her unconditionally. But instead of letting that pain define her, Lisa chose to rise and rewrite her own story. Here's the takeaway. Stop chasing validation from people who never truly saw your value. Invest in yourself, your knowledge, your skills, your career, your self-respect. Those are the things no one can ever take away. And most importantly, family isn't about blood. It's about the people who choose to stand by you when the world turns its back. Lisa turned her heartbreak into strength, her silence into a voice, and her loneliness into success. Her story reminds us that sometimes the sweetest revenge is living the life they once believed you could never have. If you've ever felt overlooked, underestimated, or left behind, this is your place. We share stories that inspire, heal, and empower you to take control of your own narrative. Hit like, share, and subscribe to join a community that believes in rewriting destiny. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a story that could change your life. And drop a comment, "I'm ready to write my own story," because today could be the first step toward your comeback.